Following the Gerard Mayo firing, the New England Patriots have put in a request to interview their next head coaching candidate. Welcome into the Patriots Pod, everybody. My name is Will. Please go ahead and subscribe down below. Give this video a like if you want that Patriots analysis, that news. All of it's coming to you right here. We're going to go ahead and dive in. This morning, the New England Patriots put in a request to interview offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions, Ben Johnson. Now, I know the fan favorite right now is Mike Vrabel. I agree. I concur with you guys. Don't worry. But there is something to be said about Ben Johnson's case, as he and Mike Vrabel are both the two guys who are probably going to be running the table in terms of this coaching search. And I think being first in line to interview him is huge for the Patriots. I think the Patriots' head coaching job is going to be sought after more than a lot of people really think. And when you look at the other franchises that are all kind of at bat for a new head coach, none of them have a franchise quarterback. None of them have the cap space that we do. Granted, some of them do have a better pick thanks to Joe Milton, but that is something we can no longer control. So let's talk about it really quick. Obviously, Vrabel is going to be involved. He's the fan favorite. He's probably the Kraft's favorite. And if I really had to put money on it right now, my bets would go on a Mike Vrabel slip. And that money line would probably be minus 300 that he is the next Patriots head coach. But I want to talk about Ben Johnson before we get into a Mike Vrabel video. And this all starts with the headroom for growth of a young Drake May. And I think Drake May really serves as an offensive-minded coach's dream. And Ben Johnson absolutely checks that box. Now, Drake, we've obviously seen this year some outstanding playmaking, some Josh Allen-esque stuff. People have been saying he's kind of the mix of Herbert and Allen, and I think, no, he didn't live up to that in his rookie year, but you saw the flashes. We've seen the deep shots to Booty. We've seen the scrambling in games like the Tennessee game. Obviously, that last play to send it to overtime was one of the highlights of the year in the league, coming from a rookie quarterback. That's rare. So, anyways, the point is Drake May is a very, very attractive cornerstone of this franchise to go along with all the assets that the team has right now going into a pivotal offseason. It makes it really any head coach's dream landing spot. And Drake May is a huge part of that, especially for an offensive mind like Ben Johnson. Now, I do think Mike Vrabel can still get a lot out of him, but I think strictly in Drake May's development, Ben Johnson makes a case to get much more out of Drake May than Mike Vrabel, who is a defensive guy with a defensive background. And granted, he's talked about assistants and a staff that he'd be bringing in, which Gerard Mayo failed to do and was probably, that lack of support and culture, being a first-timer, was probably a lot of the reason why he was booted, as well as Mike Vrabel interviewing with the Jets. That was a devious little move, which really worked well. But for Ben Johnson, obviously they're going to make their Super Bowl run here for Detroit. But do tune into those games and watch how smoothly that offense works. I mean, obviously they have an incredible offensive line. The running game is outstanding, and Goff's able to hit those deep play action shots off of that. But Jared Goff was a forgotten quarterback for a few years there, and he's been completely revived through Ben Johnson and through his play calling. And Ben Johnson was a part of the Dan Campbell culture and rebuild that you wanted out of Gerard Mayo, but he didn't come close to getting it. But he could be sort of the first chapter of that book here in New England. So I do think that being a part of that Lions turnaround, being a part of rebuilding a quarterback's confidence, not that Drake has lost it, but it's impressive to see him sort of take a middling quarterback like Jared Goff and elevate him into someone who is, let's be honest, going to be in top 5 for MVP voting this year, which is pretty outstanding for a guy who was really on his last leg. Not that he's that old, but when he was shipped out of Los Angeles, it was for a reason, and it felt like his career was taking a nosedive. And in fact, he's now the favorite to win the Super Bowl this year. So miraculous stuff you see from Ben Johnson, and I think him working with a young Drake May would be very special I think it could be like the next thing in the NFL. And he's got that McVay young offensive mind vibe where I think he could really, really elevate Drake May much, much more than a guy like Alex Van Pelt did. And I think much more than even a Josh McDaniels would if that is who Mike Vrabel decides to bring in. Now, I will say it is going to be important about who he brings in because it is said that Mike Vrabel has a team of people, assistants, and trusted advisors that he's going to bring into the building. And it's the one downside for Ben Johnson is he might not have that. He might not have a full team of guys he can call up to bring in and instill a new coaching staff and a new culture. And he is going to be a first-time head coach. Do you want to swing again at someone who doesn't actually have head coaching experience? That's really the only risk you have with Ben Johnson. I think he's an outstanding offensive play caller. I think he understands the game well. I think he would develop your young quarterback extremely well, probably the best in the league almost. But the Patriots building is so devoid of staff talent as well as roster talent that if you bring in a guy who doesn't have a ton of connections again, the way Gerard Mayo didn't, it could be a little bit sketchy for the Krafts to hire someone like that, especially if they don't have any player personnel people to come in and help Elliott Wolf. That's my next point here. Elliott Wolf is as good as gone at this point, unless whoever comes here wants to work with him. I think if Vrabel comes here, which he might and likely will, and probably is the favorite to right now, I think Elliott Wolf is as good as gone. Sure, he might stick around for the draft. He might be in the room. But I think Vrabel is going to bring in his own player personnel people, and he's going to want to be making, or at least heavily contributing to all of those decisions. However, I think if I'm Elliott Wolf, I would rather Ben Johnson get hired because he doesn't necessarily have that huge team of advisors and staff that's going to come with him and say, Elliott, sorry, pal, hit the road. So I think there's a lot of upside to this Ben Johnson interview. It was definitely interesting to see that they put in the request literally the day after the Mayo firing. So it really shows the Krafts are taking this seriously, and I'm all for it. This is a huge must-do coaching hunt, and you must do it the right way. No succession plan, no naming someone years before they actually deserve or even get the job. This is how you're supposed to do it. This is how NFL franchises do it. You're going to have a proper search. You're going to interview Vrabel for sure. It's not on the schedule yet, and they haven't requested yet, but I'm sure, I could guarantee you that Vrabel and Kraft have had some sort of an outline of a conversation. But, to satisfy the Rooney Rule and all that, you have to have these scheduled appointments, and I think getting that in for Ben Johnson so early is going to be huge. And I do think the way that I've been talking about Ben and Vrabel being the bells of the ball, your New England Patriots, don't get me wrong, they're the bell of the ball as well. It's going to be a perfect match. And if they were prom dates, they would be right in each other's leagues because if I'm Ben Johnson and I'm trying to elevate my career, I would love to go work with Drake May. A ton of cap room and a 4th overall pick where I can probably get a franchise cornerstone left tackle, or maybe Travis Hunter falls, or maybe I trade down and get Tedero McMillan. We'll see what happens and who's available. We'll talk about draft in another video for sure. And I'm very excited to sort of start a deep dive into that stuff. But this was some breaking news to see Ben Johnson request to interview him. I think it's awesome. I think he would really fit in here. I think him and Drake May would be an awesome sort of 1-2 punch. The only question is his experience and the staff he might bring. But being a part of that Lions turnaround, there is something to be said there, that he's experienced that culture go from, 100 years of losing to now the 1 seed in the NFC and the favorites win the Super Bowl. So I think it's an interesting balance for him between, okay, does he have anything to say to the defense? Does he have some people he wants to call up to run the defense? It's interesting that DeMarcus Covington's actually not been fired yet. It's kind of a surprise here at the end of the Monday after AVP and Gerard Mayo were let go, but he's as good as gone. And I think the same can be said about Elliott Wolf, because whoever comes in here is going to want to utilize those assets, which include that 4th overall pick. And they're going to want to have a lot of say, probably with their player personnel people, about who is drafted in that spot. So thank you guys for tuning in. That's the news. Ben Johnson potentially going to be the New England Patriots' next head coach. I think him and Vrabel are probably butting heads right now for that, top spot as to who they're going to be interviewing first. And most happily, I do think that the Crafts have that connection to Vrabel for sure. So I think that's going to be really the top betting favorite, if I had to say. But very interesting to see that they are putting in a request so rapidly. And I think Ben Johnson would be a slam dunk, either of them. I think they're both a huge upgrade from a relatively talentless offensive mind in Gerard Mayo and someone who really just did himself no favors at the podium, had an undisciplined team and a terrible culture this year. I feel for Gerard, but these would both be massive upgrades. So let me know in the comments what you guys think. Would you rather have Ben Johnson, or would you rather Mike Vrabel and maybe Josh McDaniels? I know those are both guys who are linked to the past here. Maybe have that winning culture still in their heads somewhere. But do you want to start something new? Are you done with hiring people of the Patriots of the old ways, so to say? I don't know. I'm a little torn. I think it would be nice to have Vrabel in here, Josh McDaniels, not necessarily. It would be awesome to get a young offensive mind in there for Drake May. Ben Johnson checks that box. So again, let me know in the comments what you guys would rather, and I will see you guys in the next episode. We're going to be talking draft. We're going to be talking some more breaking news that's going to be coming about who else the New England Patriots will be interviewing for their new head coaching vacancy. Thank you guys for tuning in. Like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.